recording. So, can you tell me how familiar you are with my typing approach, my typing videos sessions that I've done before?
Yes. So I've seen a few of your videos. Well, I think I first found you through the typing police, and thank you for that public service, by the way. And then I started looking at like some of your descriptions of the different functions and whatnot. And then I started to watch some of you, like a couple of your typing sessions, and I was like, oh, this is really interesting. And when I decided that I wanted to get typed, I like didn't go too far down that path because I didn't want to like know all the questions you were going to ask. So I saw you ask like, I don't know, 5 minutes worth of a typing interview.
Okay. Well, that's helpful. Um, it is it is a little bit easier when people don't know all my questions. Um, so, can you start by telling me about middle school?
Okay.
Um,
Anything about?
Start with the question of sixth, seventh, or eighth grade, which was best.
Ooh. Probably, I probably like seventh grade the best, because I think, like, I can remember that was a really fun year for some of my extracurricular activities. And, sixth grade is the integration of five different elementary schools. And so it was like a ton of new people. And then by seventh grade, I kind of found my little crew of friends. And there were still eighth graders to look up to, and there were sixth graders that were like looking up to seventh graders. Yeah, I'd probably answer it that way.
Okay. Um, can you remember the name of any of your teachers from seventh grade?
Oh, seventh grade teachers. Um, 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 Mrs. Charvat taught English. Um, Mr. Smith taught math, but that was sixth grade. Oh, I don't even remember his name. No. Let me think of another one. Oh, Mrs. Clapper taught home economics.
That's pretty good.
Uh,
That's pretty good, actually. I can remember one. I've never asked that question before, but after I can remember one of my seventh grade teachers. This is Fair, Feher, not Fair. But anyway, okay. So now let's do the classic SI question, which is, can you relate to me in a series of very inconsequential events what you did for the couple of hours before meeting with me? So, for example, inconsequential events include, well, I was going to go make lunch, and then I realized I didn't have any bread. So I got in the car, I went to the drive-through dairy, I got some bread, I came back, and then I got out of the car, and then I had to go back to the car because I left the bread in the car, and so then I came back to the house, and like that kind of story. Can you tell me that story?
sure. Let's see. Well, right before this call, I was playing piano and I was trying to decide what to play. And I've been doing like a couple of these songs that I've been working on. And I was like, I had a timer set because I was making sure that I wouldn't get like carried away and forget about the appointment. And before that, my sister and I, my sister's my roommate, we were trying to decide what to do about groceries because it's like, the pandemic situation is a little crazy out there. And we're trying to figure out the curbside pickup situation. And so we put a bunch of orders in, but there's no slots till tomorrow. So we were like deliberating on, oh, should we just like put in an order and then pick it
Okay.
up tomorrow or just hold off?
Okay, so it would seem to me that you're pretty definitively not SI polar. So
Not SI what? Polar?
not SI polar.
Oh, polar.
So people ENFJs, ENTJs don't typically answer these kind of questions by evidently using SI. So it seems to me you're evidently using it adequately that I can basically eliminate ENTJ and ENFJ right off the bat. But I haven't asked a lot of SI questions, so let me just make double sure. Can you talk to me a little bit about your sleeping habits? How many hours of sleep you get a night?
I like to get like 7 or 8, and I'm usually pretty good about that. But sometimes, like, depending on what I did at night, like if I did like something that's very either like physically or mentally stimulating, and I like kind of wired and I can't fall asleep. But generally it's like fairly consistent. And like I definitely like my sleep.
So, like, when you do an 8 ball of cocaine, it makes it difficult for you to sleep?
I wonder why I can't fall asleep.
Okay. So, are you more likely to be have somebody else note, gosh, you go to bed late and wake up late, or have somebody else note, gosh, you go to bed early and wake up early?
Probably early.
Okay. Do you like to cook?
Yeah.
Okay. Do you cook by let's see what happens if I put a little bit of peanut butter in my stir fry. Oh, that's delicious.
For sure.
Okay. So you're experimental.
Yeah, definitely experimental. I'm terrible at baking for that reason, because I'm always trying to like fiddle with the recipe, or as I would like, I'm trying to upgrade it somehow usually, or I'm just curious about like, how would it change if I added cinnamon or whatever.
I'm terrible at baking for the same reason.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, you mean the goal here is to follow the recipe as closely as possible? That doesn't sound very interesting.
Exactly.
Okay, so you talked about playing the piano. Have you played the piano for a long time?
Yeah, I started when I was 10 or so, and I went to a like really kind of strict classical teacher. And I love classical music, so that's still what I play mostly. I play some ragtime and some like pop songs here and there. And I'm a good sight reader. And like thinking back to when I used to take lessons when I was younger, I didn't like practice, and I feel like I didn't really like live up to my full potential when I was younger, because I could kind of just like wing it in the lesson, and I would practice like maybe like 1 hour a week or something, but my teacher wanted me to be practicing like an hour every day. And as I've gotten older and more mature, I feel like I've appreciated the value of practicing, so I actually enjoy it now because I can see like the incremental progress.
Do you compose any piano pieces, or do you play other people's compositions?
I mostly play other people's stuff. I do some arrangements. So like if I just know kind of like the bass chord, then I make my own arrangements to stuff. But for the most part, I'm playing existing songs.
Do you ever sing when you're playing at the same time?
Sometimes. But I mean, like classical music.
Right, classical music doesn't have a lot of singing parts.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah, I'm not going to bust out an opera.
Right.
But like I sing the song in my head to as I'm like trying to remember it.
Okay. Do you have a goal with piano, or is it just sort of a general, I'm improving at it over the course of my life because it's good to get better at it?
Yeah, I really enjoy it. It's like a fun break from everything else that I'm doing. I'd get really bored if I had to play piano like 8 hours a day. That would be like really boring. But when it's like breaking up something else, like during the workday or something, and I think it's really fun to just be able to like have a few songs in my repertoire and be building those like over the course of a lifetime.
If you had to work as a piano mover for a month, just 1 month, but for some reason your current employment, even if you're self-employed, has demanded that you work for a month as a piano mover. Now, how difficult is it going to be for you to get through that month of manual labor?
I think it'd be pretty difficult. Usually, like when it comes to stuff like that, I'm usually like I have a podcast on or something. to like distract myself. I mean, especially something like there's like certain physical activities that I really like I do a ton of dance and a ton of different types of dance. But like the same repetitive type thing where the only like nuance to it would be, okay, how do I like move this slightly different piano through the slightly different door than all the other ones, or like the little bit of small talk I can make with the customers. I feel like the actual like drudgery of moving the piano through like hallways or driveways or whatever would get like super boring.
Right. Okay. So let's say instead of moving pianos now, you are moving something that's light and easy enough to carry, like styrofoam or something, but it's big in such a way that there's only one direction in which you can turn this object such that it fits through the door. Okay? Now, you're on a crew of 5 people. It turns out that as you go about this job, that you see the other people attempting to do that, this is actually quite challenging. That that sometimes you have to turn it just like this, and then you'll be able to go through. But that sometimes, that eventually the crew can figure out which way to turn it. Now, what I'm asking is, if it's your turn to be the turner person who figures out how to turn it, is it going to take you longer than the day that it's not your turn, or less long on average? Yeah.
So I've been watching people get it wrong for a week, and then it's my turn, you're saying?
Well, you've had a week of practice, and you've noticed that but you don't have any data. I'm not giving you any data about your own performance here, but I'm just saying you've recognized as you've had a chance to practice this skill that it's not easy. That a lot of times the person who's in charge of figuring out how to turn the thing has to try a bunch of different ways before they figure out how to fit through the door. So my question is, if it turns out that this crew takes turns, one day a week, each person has the job of turning. On the day that it's your turn to do that job, is it going to take the crew longer to get through the day or less long than the normal time?
Probably quicker.
So you think you'd be pretty good at figuring that out?
I think I would, but I don't know that I would quicker on the very first day. For a whole week. When I saw that like what was working or what wasn't, or I had the chance to like observe it a little bit, I would be like really quick by the like second or third day. But the first day I'd probably be like moving it around every single direction and trying to figure out what works.
Okay. If you have some household thing around the house breakdown, be it a swinging cabinet door has one of the hinges coming off and it's kind of hanging there. It's like one hinge. How do you approach this? Are you likely to ignore it until it falls off completely, and then you gotta just put it off to the side, and eventually you'll put it back up? Do you try to fix it yourself right away? Do you talk to somebody else and try to get them to fix it, like your sister, for example? Or do you call an outsider, like a professional, to come in and fix it?
Well, I would call like the maintenance office in my apartment complex because that's like super easy. But like, let's pretend like they didn't exist. Then it depends how bad it was. Like if it was just kind of a minor annoyance, I would probably just leave it. But if it was like debilitating and like I couldn't even open up the cabinet door, I would like watch a YouTube video and then try to figure out how to fix it.
Okay. I'd like to start asking you some extroverted intuition questions now. So there's a few different ways in which I test for extroverted intuition. Basically I'm looking to see, when I ask you these kind of questions, your ability to generate either quantity of randomness, or quality of deviance from the norm. So for example, if I were to say, well, what's an extroverted intuition story about a pencil, you might say, well, if I was going to have an extroverted intuition link about a pencil, I would I'd find some sort of link to my actual life, or make one up. Like I remember this one time that I used a pencil to fill out an SAT, and then I'd perhaps find another link to a pencil that's external to me, like pencils are number two pencils are used on a test, and well, let's just start with that. I want to see if you can find SI and an NI link. So the SI and NI links are link something to you personally, an actual experience, and then the second one is something universally you know about it. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So maple tree.
Maple tree. Let's see. I made pancakes and used maple syrup with the little like maple emblem on it for breakfast a week ago. Something universal about a maple tree. I mean, most people like pancakes and waffles.
Okay.
Let's see. They grow. Oh god.
Okay. Can you make a short poem that includes the words pancake, maple, and has at least 4 lines in it?
Sure. Pancakes are so fluffy and pure, and the maple drizzle is nothing to abhor.
That doesn't rhyme with pure.
How the syrup pools in the pockets. I'm gonna take a picture of this and put it in my lockets.
All right, good. All right, so you're not expert intuition polar, that's for sure. But let's try this. How many different synonyms can you think of for the word robust?
Robust, strong, vital, sturdy, reinforced, impenetrable.
Okay, pretty good. What's the deal with that painting behind you?
Oh, I made it.
You made it yourself. Okay, that's what I was wondering. I was wondering if it was one of you or your sister painted it, or if it was.
This was one of my random projects.
Is it like paper mache? It looks like it has texture to it a little bit.
It's metallic paint.
Okay.
That's textured, and there's like some texturized media in there, but it's mostly just, I think what you're seeing is the metallic, probably.
Okay, cool. So, do you have a lot of kind of different notions? Like, today I'm gonna paint a painting. Today I'm gonna like read this book by Judy Blume.
Totally.
Okay. I'm gonna ask you some inky pinkies now. Do you know what an inky pinky is?
No.
Okay, an inky pinky. I'll give you 2 examples first, then I'll see if that's enough explanation. First example is the clue would be hilltop water spout, and then you additionally be told inky pinky is the answer, which means it's a 2-2, and the answer would be mountain fountain. So mountain fountain means hilltop water spout, but it rhymes and it's got 2 syllables in each word. It's an inky pinky. Another example would be roadway flesh. It's an ink pink. That means it's 1 syllable each, and the answer is street meat.
Ah, okay. I think I got you.
So I'll start on the easier side, and we'll see if we work up. A lot of people have a lot of difficulty with these. So, sunrise yard, ink pink.
Sunrise yard.
Mm-hmm.
Mm,
It's Dawn Lawn.
oh, okay, got it.
How about Barrier Stumble? It's an ink pink.
Barrier stumble. Wallfall.
Correct. Okay. How about a uh, um, so it's it's a person who's into diversity, who's also into going off by himself, and it's an inkety pinkety. That's 3-3. It's a person who's into diversity, who's also in it. It's a person who's into diversity, modified by an adjective that means someone prone to going off by themselves.
And it's 3 syllables.
3 syllables. Yeah, 3 syllables each.
Who's into diversity?
This is one I made up yesterday in the car when I was driving around with Rachel, but it's the first time I ever tried it. It's kind of a hard one, probably.
Who's into diversity? Hmm. Somebody goes off by themselves. Loner.
This is a difficult one. It's inclusive. It's a reclusive inclusive.
Oh, that's good. All I could think about was like social justice warrior, and that was way too many syllables.
Right. Okay, can you make up an inky pinky for me to try to solve?
Yes. Um. A animal that really likes honey and looking off to the distance, and it's an ink pink.
It's a bear stare.
Yeah.
Okay. Fine. So now let me ask you some TI questions, which is to say some conditional logic questions, and we'll start with a couple basic genealogy questions. In relationship to me, who is my father's brother?
Uncle.
Okay, and who is my mother's mother's husband in relation to me?
Your mother's mother's husband is your step grandfather.
That was just regular grandfather. Well, I mean, it's not your step grandfather. It could be it's true. It could be your step grandfather. So let me predicate the genealogy questions by saying everyone's married only once, and there are no bastard children. Okay. Can you tell me who my uncle's son's sister is in relation to me?
Your uncle's son's sister's your cousin.
Correct. Okay. If all people who wear glasses like math, and some people who like math also like science, does it necessarily mean that some people who wear glasses like science?
Okay, say it again.
If all people who wear glasses like math, and some people who like math also like science, can we conclude that some people who wear glasses necessarily like science?
No.
Okay, correct. If I tell you that only Egyptians make pyramids and I make a pyramid, can we conclude that I'm Egyptian?
Say it again.
If I say only Egyptians make pyramids and I make pyramids, can we conclude that I'm an Egyptian?
Yes.
Okay. If I say that all people from Iceland enjoy BLTs, and I enjoy BLTs, can we conclude that I'm from Iceland?
Yes.
Okay. The answer to that one is no. If only people from Iceland enjoy BLTs and I enjoy BLTs, then yes, in fact, we conclude that I'm from
Okay.
Iceland.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So I've got your type, of, I believe, narrowed down here pretty well, but I'm not. There's 3 or 4 possibilities still I could look through. So let me try to narrow this down a little further. Can What's more satisfying to you? Coming up with a a really clever retort, for example, in conversation, or a funny joke, or some other novel idea that's expressed communicatively, or completing a task that's on your list? What gives you more satisfaction?
Like a funny retort.
Okay. And where do you feel, what would make you feel more vulnerable if someone were to say to you, you're not good at making funny retorts, or you're not good at completing tasks?
um, I mean, what would make me feel more vulnerable? Probably the funny thing.
Okay. So if somebody said you're not good at completing tasks, you'd be like, do you know
I
me?
know. Well, yeah, I'd be like, well, it depends on the situation. So I'll either obviously complete it, or like I obviously won't complete it. So it's like,
Do you find that when you say you're going to do something, you do it, or that when you say you're going to do something, then you don't want to do that thing, or something in between?
well, yeah, more. I mean, I don't know. I'm like dependable, but if it's something I really don't want to do, I'll either try to get out of it, or I'll wait till the last minute, or find some way around it if I don't have to do it. But if it's something like mission critical, I'll absolutely do it.
What's an example of something that you might feel like you ought to do, pressure to do, have to do, but don't want to?
Hmm. Mm, something I like would feel pressured to do that I don't want to do. Like, I mean, anything that's like minutia, or like keeping good records. Like, I really have to force myself to do that. Um,
Okay, so does this conversation ever happen? Your phone rings. Laura, it's me, your grandmother. It has been a long time since you last called me, and you forgot about Arbor Day. You know, I love to celebrate Arbor Day, and I didn't get an Arbor Day card from you.
um, yeah, I'm not like a super card person. I try to remember people's birthdays, but it's not a huge deal. I feel like if I don't.
Okay, so you don't have guilting family members who get on you if you don't like remember to call them on their special day, or
I mean, I will. I'll call them on. I would never miss a close, like immediate family birthday. I rarely get a card on time though. So like I'm still working on my mom's Christmas present, for example.
is your house dramatically more or less clean depending on whether people are coming over, or is it approximately the same regardless?
Yes, I will give it like a definitely clean it more if someone's coming over for sure.
Okay. Do you watch any uh, TV shows or movies that are popular enough for me to be familiar with them as well?
Probably,
So could you
probably.
could you name some instances of TV shows or movies that you like, and talk a little bit about what makes you think they're good, and then a couple examples of things that you think are bad and what makes them bad?
hmm Let's see. Some of my favorite shows are I love Frasier because I think the writing is really good, and I think the characters are really funny. It's very witty, and it's I think the family dynamics are fascinating with Frasier, and he lives with his brother. I live with my sister, and they're dealing with their dad. It's sometimes I probably seen too many episodes, but it starts to get like pretty predictable.
Do you know that guy who plays the dad in that show is actually a British?
No.
Yeah, he is. He's just putting on an American accent. That tripped me out when I learned that too.
Wow. No, I had no idea.
He sounds so American, right?
And he's with what's her name? Their housekeeper woman. She's British, so he's like trying to keep his American accent and talking to her with a British accent the whole time.
That's true. I hadn't thought about that. But yeah, he's British. So anyway, that's irrelevant. But are you likely to rewatch shows you've seen before, or look for new things, or combination of the two?
Combination.
Okay.
Especially like for really funny stuff. Like, have you ever seen the show Adventure Time? Like an adult cartoon?
Yeah, I've seen maybe like half an episode of it or something, but yeah, I'm familiar with it a little bit.
Yeah, there's like classic things like that I just get like such a kick out of that I could watch again and again, and they're really like short. The mini episodes are like 10 minutes each or something. There was a really cute show that I found in quarantine called Encore, and it was about old high school musical troupes that reunited when they were like in their 40s or 50s, or they're like reunions from when they were in their 60s, and they would practice the show that they performed in high school as like 60-year-olds and then perform it for an audience. It was really cute because there was like
such a great concept.
It was so good. It's called Encore. It was on Disney Plus, but it was really cute because like part of it is it's just funny watching like grown-ass adults that sang for years and years and years, and they're also like revisiting how they've grown since high school, and some of them are reevaluating like, oh, I really loved music and I lost my passion for it, and then the dynamics like pick up like that where they left off. Like there were love triangles back then, and you can see there's still tension even like 40 years later. It's really cute.
That's great.
Yeah.
Rachel, can I get your help here for a little bit? First of all, I want to just mention to Rachel what you were just saying. She's watched this show called Encore. Have you ever heard of it? In which it's on Disney Plus, but they get the cast of like a high school play from like 20 years ago to come back together and put on the same play again.
What interesting.
Isn't that a great concept?
Yeah.
That's a hilarious concept.
I never would have thought of something like that.
So I'd like to have Rachel chat with you for a little bit, and I'm not going to really tell her anything going into this, and just let her sort of feel around and see what she thinks.
I don't even know where to start.
Take care of yourself.
Hello. So you did the Inkity Pinkity, you did the TI questions.
Why did you ask her about her hobbies or something? All I know is she played piano and she made that painting.
Okay, so do you have any other hobbies?
Yeah, my biggest one is dance, I would say. And improv. I love improv. But like dance, I did ballet when I was growing up, like really strict, like dancing on point. And then starting in like college or a couple years out of college, I got back into it, and then started branching out in different types. And I basically love like all kinds, but the last couple years I've been doing more hip hop and tango.
Oh, that's wonderful. I used to do dancing as well, actually. What
kind?
So I did ballet, jazz, tap, and a little bit of hip hop when I got older, but I love dance. It's so great. So do you what is your physical routine for when you're dancing?
I usually just show up to a class. But I do like when I was like getting back into it, I started out doing the like followed the instructor classes until I like learned all the movements just through probably like a lot of repetition and getting them in my body. So now I go to I'm on like a little like women's choreography tango team, and they're doing it virtually, which is pretty cool because the teachers are down in Buenos Aires, and they teach a piece of choreography, and like every week she'll kind of go through it on Zoom, which isn't optimal, like, you know, trying to do a dance class on Zoom, but actually like she gives good corrections, and I could tell I was improving throughout the whole 12 weeks. And then at the end we record the tango pieces, and we're all performing the same piece of choreography from different places all around the world, and they splice the video together. It's super cool.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
So I'm even blown away by that information, because I could never imagine putting together dance through Zoom.
I know.
So that's great. And the fact that you were progressing through it too shows that it works.
Yeah.
So, but overall, would you say that you're best with an instructor in person?
Definitely, for sure.
And is it something that you would consider just a hobby, or would you do something professionally with it as well?
Oh my gosh, I would love to do something professionally with it. But I think I would probably get a little bored of just doing tango 8 hours a day. But I would love to like have the time to kind of like master it and take it as far as I could without it becoming like an obligation or a burden. So like what I'm doing right now is kind of like that. And then there's this other group that does more like hip hop. It's like a dance team, and we're gonna try to do a music video for a local artist in March. So that will be cool. It's like scratching that itch, but it's still like very much amateur.
Okay. Is there anything else you'd like me to ask?
So you seem like you're pretty active, and are people more likely to say to you, you're more extroverted than you first seemed, or that you're more introverted than you first seemed?
I think most people think I'm like super extroverted, and then I think the people that know me really well would say that I'm more introverted than I seem.
Okay. Are you likely to be the person who initiates things like the stuff you're just talking about, this dance thing? Are you being included in that, or are you a put together of that?
Interestingly, like I could see myself putting it together, but it not being as much fun. And like I do end up sometimes like I do get asked to be like in leadership type things. But I really don't enjoy it as much as just being like a very active participant that's kind of like not loud, but like a strong presence, I guess.
Okay. And do you feel you have a good grasp of how other people are perceiving you during the course of those events?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. How do you feel right now?
I feel like I'm really intrigued by our conversation, and I'm curious what you're going to say next, and pretty chill.
Okay. And how do you think I feel right now?
Well, you're figuring out something.
This microphone thing has these little rubber bands, and they fall out of their little slot that they go in. I put them back there.
I think that you're enjoying this. Like this is work for you, but I think you're enjoying the conversation.
Yeah, that's true. Okay, so when you have problems with people, is it, let's say you have an underling at work in some sort of work capacity, Say now, this time you've been hired to cater a yacht party, and you didn't want the job, but they said, listen, it's got to be you. This celebrity has demanded Lara be the caterer on this yacht, and so we're paying you $1 million for this 6-hour job. So you're like, fine, I'll be the caterer on the yacht. Now, you've got your staff of people that are there, your waiters and helpers and stuff. You begin to have a problem with one of them. What's likely the problem? What's likely caused the conflict or the difficulty?
Well, I mean, in that particular situation, for me to get mad, it would probably be because they weren't performing and they weren't up to standard. And there's a lot of money on the line. And they like weren't.
But what I'm saying is, in what fashion were they not performing well that caused you to get mad at them? Were they trying their best but just being too slow about getting the plates out? Were they doing a good job with the thing but giving you a bad attitude? Were they being mean to their coworkers but being very good to you and being a good employer or a good employee? Or like, were they messing up dishes they were cooking? Or, you know, like, what were they doing that made you think they were performing badly?
All of that would be unacceptable.
All of that, huh? You're a strict boss. But what way can I fuck around, boss?
Yeah, I mean, I like, if I had to like kind of rank those variables, I mean, I think like in that particular setup, like if there was like an important client and money on the line, I would care most about the deliverable. So if people are being kind of like short in attitude, to be like, okay, yeah, everyone's stressed. So I'd probably let that stuff slide. And I would really be focused on the end result, and making sure that it was like up to par quality wise and on time and everything. If those variables weren't there, I'd be wanting to like enjoy the experience collectively. And so I would care more about the attitude stuff too. Like that would be more important too.
Okay.
And in fact, if like it wasn't super like a lot of money and a lot of like a really important person in the mix, I would just want to have fun more than I actually cared about that it was like perfect.
Okay, cool. There was a question I was going to ask you, and I'm trying to remember what it was that I was thinking when you were saying that answer, because then I started thinking something else, then I forgot what I was originally thinking. Okay, so, what was I thinking? Okay, well, I'm not sure what it was I'm trying to remember, but have you ever seen me administer the RAT test before?
No.
The random association test? Okay. So this test is, I have kind of iffy sense of how reliable this test is for some things, but I'm still pretty confident that this test is able to at least distinguish between, say, dominant and polar. I've hoped that it was, and it's turned out to really not be as clear cut as this, but I've hoped that it was a test of introverted intuition. And in general, it does seem that people with polar introverted intuition struggle with this test a lot. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to share it here on the screen. And wait, can you see it now? Let me share it better. I shared it dumb. Share screen, Chrome tab, this one. Okay, now scroll down a little bit. Alright. So, cottage Swiss cake. The answer is cheese because cottage cheese, Swiss cheese, cheesecake.
Mm-hmm.
Can you tell me cream skate water?
Ice.
How about loser throat spot?
Sore.
Mm-hmm. Show life row?
Boat.
Mm-hmm. Right wrist stop?
Watch.
Correct. Alright, let me scroll down to some of the more challenging ones. How about sense, courtesy, place? It's courtesy. Courtesy. Oh wait, no, I'm sorry. Common. Common. It's common. Common sense, common courtesy, commonplace. Worm shelf end.
Book.
Peace mind dating. Huh. I don't know. Let's see. Game.
Oh.
Game piece, mind game, dating game. Okay, well, that's fine. I've got plenty of data from that. So, to the extent that I am correct about that test linking to NI at all, and I think I am correct that it links to it somewhat, you're definitely not polar NI. We can eliminate that. And I would say you're probably... so that eliminates ESFJ as a possible type. Everything that I've seen from you says FETI, and your TI results are consistent with third slot TI, potentially fourth slot, potentially eighth. But if it were eighth, then it would be back slot, and if it were fourth, then you'd be SI polar, and you're clearly not SI polar. So it's probably not second or first. It could possibly. I didn't do a whole lot of TI testing, but I'm confident saying it's third. Which left me with, are you an ISFJ or an INFJ? Well, I think that you're pretty clearly an INFJ, but it can be kind of difficult to definitively distinguish between the two, because they have the same 2-3 functions that say FE second and TI third, and they have a capacity to demonstrate SI. In other words, you can tell me stories about your past and remember, and I can see you remembering. You can even do this. You touch your nose. Which is like the classic I am using SI thing.
Oh, interesting.
So it's not impossible for you to access, but it doesn't seem to be front stack really. It doesn't seem to be dominant. You're not dominant because it's like there's a lot of times where I've had to prompt you to be more specifically linked to something personal so that I could then the opposite, then where I've had to get you to take from a personal answer and universalize. You seem more native or comfortable with the universal than ISFJs really ever are. So, but just to sort of reconfirm that you're not an ISFJ. So you talked some about your sleeping, and you do like to cook. Talk to me about holding your pee. Are you likely to hold your pee for a long time so you have to pop, or are you going to go pee before that happens?
I'm not like the most. That's like not a healthy thing is to hold it super long. So I generally don't try to. But I'm not like I feel like I'm not like a. I don't have like a super low tolerance for that.
Okay. Um, so if somebody's going to critique you or about saying, but you're not, but look, this is the truth, and this truth is determinate here. And you keep saying, Laura, that you know from your experience, but this universal truth is really more applicable here. Are you more likely to hear that? Or are you more likely to hear, but Laura, these universals you're pointing to don't apply to this particular situation. This particular situation is unique to us, and it's not something that you can take some sort of universal rule and conclude that this is this about meow because meow is determined by its particulars. Which of those two critiques are you likely to hear? Or which would you make about yourself?
So say it again.
The first one is you're stuck in your particulars, that is to say your own personal experience, and I say, but that was just how you experienced it. That's not normally how it's going to play out. That's not the way the world works. Just because you had one experience where a chihuahua ran into your yard and bit you on the ankle doesn't mean that we need to put up ankle protecting fences around the house. You know, that's sort of the SI taking over too much. The NI taking over too much is, but you know we have a good relationship because we experience it every day together. Why would it matter what this external source says about it? Or be it like an astrology report or another person potentially. Well, Judy says that we're not good together because your aura is brown and my aura is green. And brown and green aura people shouldn't be together. Would be an example of some universal rather than pointing to the relationship itself.
I could see myself doing both.
Okay.
How do you feel when someone critiques your habits, like you're cooking or your cleansing routine? How do you feel someone critiques you on that?
I think it'd be weird. I mean, like on the one hand, I'd be like, what would they be critiquing? And on the other, like, why do they care about like that? Like, that's not as important as this other stuff going on.
Okay. This is a question I've never asked before. But are you more nurturing or submissive in bed?
Probably more of a giver, I'd say.
Okay. I don't know what that means, but okay. Let's see. Do you want somebody in? If you were to be in a long-term relationship, would you want your significant other to like make you go out more and do more stuff, or to help you to implement ideas that you have that you can't implement yourself?
That one.
Okay.
Implementing. Yeah.
Okay. What's a better way to pick up on you at a bar? Is it to be funny or is it to be Chadley?
To be what?
Chadley.
What's that?
It's like well, like the ultimate Chadley move would be to come over and intentionally, accidentally knock over your beer and go, oh, I guess now you got no choice but to let you buy you another beer. That'd be Chadley, right? Whereas humor is say something witty and original that you.
I'd say probably
Humor, okay. Even if the Chadliness, even if the person's really Chadly, like.
I mean, both might work.
Okay. How likely are you to go say, I like the looks of that guy across the room there. I'm gonna just go right over there and say, hey there, big fella.
I've been known to do that.
Okay.
But I have to be like really interested in him. Yeah, if I was really interested, I probably would.
Okay. How often a day do you wash your hands?
Normal, like no extra, like just when I like go to the bathroom or coming back from being outside.
Okay. So it's usually linked to what you've just done and not how your hands feel. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, I mean, if I'm cooking and I'll wash them, but I'm not like doing things during the day where I would get weird stuff on my hands that much.
Okay. You're not a pond scum scooper by profession.
No.
Okay. So. All right. Who was your best friend when you were in elementary school? Do you have one?
Yes, Rachel Ruffray.
Okay. And did you cease to be best friends with her by the time you were in high school?
Nope, we're still friends.
Okay. Were you still best friends in high school?
No.
Okay. Can you think of a friend that you had a time where in childhood where you were close with them, but then you had a falling out, and then you decided you didn't like them anymore?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, there were a couple of those. Yeah. There were elementary school friends we had a falling out in like high school, I think.
Okay, can you articulate the details of the falling out to me?
I think they got jealous because I was like hanging out more with the popular kids, and then they like basically these two friends like wrote a letter and put it in my locker with just like a bunch of these insults on it. It was like bullying kind of, yeah. But in private.
I see. Okay. How much do you feel like you rely on your past experience to know what to expect versus your instincts about the world?
I feel like I form patterns based on what I've observed and experienced, and then would like create a prediction based on that, or like a kind of like more general theory, not like a theory, but like a general understanding.
Okay, so let's say you hear about something in the news, and let's say the first thing you hear about is two celebrities that you know become a couple. Let's say, I don't know, Brad Pitt and Nicki Minaj have become a couple. You're familiar with both those people? Okay. Now, what's the likelihood that you're going to have an opinion right away as to the longevity of the relationship before it's even had a chance to be a thing for a while yet?
So if I was like a person that like studied celebrities a lot and like I knew
Well, I'm just
about.
saying, you read some random thing in Google News or whatever. You're not even looking it up or anything, but you go, huh, look at that, Nicki Minaj is dating Brad Pitt. That's so strange. I don't think that's gonna work out. Would you be like that, or would you just withhold judgment because you don't know yet?
I'd probably withhold judgment.
Okay. And what about presidential elections? Do you feel like in the election that you knew who was going to win before it played out, or did you think, well, we'll see what happens?
I felt this one I felt like I knew who was going to win, and in 2016 I was blindsided by that one.
I was blindsided by that too.
Same.
I spent the whole election up until like the last couple of weeks going, there's no way. There's no way in hell.
Yeah.
I was
cried.
like, well, one thing we can conclude that we can definitively prove that there's no puppet master behind the scenes determining this shit.
Yeah.
I mean, nobody would have chosen that guy.
Yeah, it was great. That was crazy.
Yeah, watching like the electoral counts change by the minute that year, that was so painful and traumatic.
So does something like that affect you? Like, do news reports, can you watch the news and not be affected? How long does something that is traumatic that happens within the scope of more universal things like COVID, how does that affect you?
It's not like debilitating. Like, of course it's like really sad, but I've just kind of like used this time to focus on me instead. And I don't read or watch the news a ton. I just like, just take in enough to know what's going on, but I'm mostly just kind of doing my own thing. Like, okay, just, more time for my hobbies and all that.
What's more important in a potential significant other? Is it that they follow through on everything they say they're going to do, or is it that they always speak respectfully and kindly to you?
Cool. Probably the second one, I guess. I don't know. They're both important.
Okay. If let's say that I'm your sister, and I'm sitting down with you, and we're watching TV together. We're watching Monday Night Football. It's yesterday, okay? And I, as your sister, say, "Oh, Laura, you remember how we have to go to the weed store later? We'll go at halftime, okay?" And you're like, "Okay." And then halftime comes, and your sister gets up to get another bag of chips and come back over and starts talking to you about Judy from work. And then the second half starts, and you start watching the second half. Now, number one question is, how likely are you to have not remembered, because she said this early in the first quarter, you're going to go to the weed store at halftime. At halftime, are you still thinking we're going to the weed store at halftime, or have you forgotten about it too?
I think it depends on how much like I personally want it. Like if I'm like really wanting that to elevate the experience, then that would be very front of mind, I think. But if I was like kind of apathetic about it, I would probably forget and just be focused on the conversation.
Okay, so let's say it is front of mind. Your sister's forgotten about it, clearly though, and she's anyway. So you remember Judy, Lara, right? And she's really into talking to you now. Are you going to be like, okay, before you get into this, weed store? Or are you going to try to subtly cue her so she remembers herself so you don't have to directly tell her? Or what? So I'm your sister. You get through to me that I've forgotten about going to the weed store. Anyway, so Judy, remember how he was married to Darren? Well, Darren, he cheated on her with Julie, who's Judy's sister. But they didn't know they were sisters at the time. That's the crazy thing. They were long lost sisters. Isn't that interesting?
So I would say, so when are we going to go to the weed store?
Oh, right, the weed store. Can we just go after the game? Because now it's the second half already, almost. I got so caught up in my talk. What do you think? Can we just go after the game?
Sure.
I thought you wanted weed.
Yeah, but we're having fun, and I'm into this drama.
You want to know about Darren and Judy and Julie, huh?
Even though it's a cliffhanger.
You know, my take on you is you're an INFJ, but I can't, unfortunately, precisely seem to eliminate the possibility that you're an ISFJ. Like, I keep trying to eliminate that possibility. I can't seem to manage to do it, but I still am pretty convinced you're an INFJ.
I am too. I feel you're more INFJ. You seem to understand theory and want to talk about larger scope things rather than. Well, I don't want to speak for you. How do you what do you like to speak about? More broader spectrum, like what's going on in the world, or do you like to talk more about like the day-to-day things that you're going to be doing?
Yeah, there's a lot of like broader topics I'm really passionate about. Like, I'm really interested in automation and the future of AI. I'm really interested in ethics around aging and longevity and life extension and things like that. Yeah.
The future of AI is robots will make us their slaves.
It's robust, you said?
I said robots will make us their slaves eventually.
Yeah.
That's the future of AI.
That's what everyone's saying now.
The thing is, throughout this conversation, one thing I've noted that is very consistent with INFJ and not necessarily consistent with ISFJ is the concision and precision of the FE pacing in the answers and stuff. You answer each question directly and typically in 1 to 2 sentences and then stop. That's much more like an INFJ than an ISFJ, who can express their second slot FE a little bit more, with a little bit more fluffed out stories and stuff. You know, like they because there's so much more particular as knowledge to them, when they give answers to things, there tend to be more parentheticals, so to speak. Mm-hmm. So it's like as you're going down the answer, well, I'd say normally I would go to Bears. I mean, there was that one time when I went in a man, but normally I'm in a man. That's more of an ISFJ move, and I haven't gotten any of that from you. So I'm feeling pretty confident about INFJ. Now, can you tell us what type you thought you were coming in?
I thought INFJ or ENFJ or ENFP or ENTP.
Okay. You're definitely not an ENFP because you're definitely front stack FETI. You are ENFJ would be the thing you'd be most likely to be mistyped as. Mm-hmm. Most people would type you as ENFJ. Mm-hmm. But I've learned from that kind of remind me a lot of Rachel when I typed her. And I typed her as ENFJ.
INFJ?
She's INFJ, but I originally typed her as ENFJ because, like you, she has a rather extroverted affect. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. But so you're definitely not ENFP. You are likely to be typed by somebody else as ENFJ. ENTP is not a bad guess, not a bad mistyping, because you're highly competent at the same chunk of stuff. Namely, ENTP and INFJs are the two most metaphysical types, which is to say we have 3 communication functions and then 1 experience function. And the three, communication, come first, and then the experience. So, like an ISFJ, they go experience, communication, communication, communication. That's balanced because they only have one experience, but it's at the top. But but INFJs and ENTPs were the least balanced types. There are two that are equally least balanced in the other direction, but in the sense that we have three metaphysical functions and then one physical, and so so it's easy to make the mistake, like, okay, I seem like ENTP, I feel like an ENTP, I like that aesthetic and that whole vibe of being an active intuitor. So that's an easy sort of self-identification thing. And I've mistyped INFJs and ENTPs before as well. But the TI test is pretty definitive there. It's third slot, not second. So that makes you an INFJ. And also you're clearly NI, not NE. That's the other thing about the concision of the answers. One thing that I like, why I like INFJs, and why the conversation between us goes so smoothly, and why I'm dating an INFJ, is because that kind of NI concision, directly answering the question with the actual answer that matters and not other stuff, is delightfully refreshing to me as an extroverted intuitor who tends to soak in a bunch of other stuff all the time.
Right. So what would be the polar functions?
Your polar would be extroverted thinking. And the polar of INFJ extroverted thinking is basically when you are required to take what's a dynamic physical process in the world and reduce it to a set of ordinalities. What this means is, for example, as an INFJ, you're likely to what's a good example of this? So, well, here's an example of FE tool / TE polar. Rachel, one time I was getting in the car, and I was in the car, and I didn't look really to the side of me. I was looking over here at the door or whatever, and on the seat was a thing that was preventing her from sitting on the passenger seat because I had put this thing there. I don't remember what it was. But she opened the door, and I was not noticing that she was standing there waiting because I had this thing on the seat. And she said, is this where you like to keep this object? To me. So, in other words, she didn't tell me to move it. She didn't think about just moving it herself. It's a problem that had a million ways to be solved, right? But she defaults to her tool function, which is to not even ask me to move it, but to ask me if that's where I'd like it to stay, as a means of allowing me to choose to move it without any pressure from her or something. So if you do that kind of shit, that's what TE polar is. It's a non-solution oriented framework. It's about the other person, not the problem.
Ah, interesting. And so INFJs have 8th slot SI?
Yeah. Which means that's an area that you're going to feel like you want to have complete, your own whim-based control over. You want SI when you want it, and you don't want it when you don't want it, and you don't want anybody else critiquing you on it, or, you know, and if other people try to take control of it, you're going to freak out, kind of.
That sounds right for that one.
Yeah. The thing about TE polar also, with everyone's polar, all people and their polar, they tend to not even conceptually get it very well. Like, you'll mistake something else for TE. It'll typically be, you'll mistake SE for TE. So when you need to solve a problem such as, I can't figure out why I can't log into this thing, then you're more likely to do things than you are to solve the problem. You'll just try a bunch of solutions until one works, rather than trying to figure out how to solve the problem.
Yeah, that sounds right.
So yeah, that's TE4. So okay, Any other thoughts or questions about the type? I'm glad that we hit one of your 4 possible types anyway.
Yeah, no, that was cool. Thank you.
Okay, are you okay with us publishing this video?
Sure.
All right, cool, great, thank you. I will stop recording now. Stuff on this.